fly fishing camp came on with us like in early 2023, and I was brought onto the project pretty early on, but Wayne had started it with another one of our colleagues, Ollie. And this one was really interesting at the time because it came to us with no land, or maybe there was like some land, but they weren't sure about it yet. But when I got it, it was just a layout study. And so we actually do that with a lot of our clients that come to us who are using us to source land or looking for land still. And I actually find that to be like a really interesting kind of workflow for us because we're really focused on getting the house what it needs to be from a price perspective and a design perspective, and then the land gets plugged in after that. So that's what this project is. It's a good example of a project where we didn't start with land, but we actually started with a hard budget for the construction costs. And so for Brian, our client, this one, it was $500K, but he also really wanted it to be what he had envisioned and to accommodate a fair number of people. This project is meant to be a fly fishing getaway destination for groups this is the Hudson Valley, right?
This area is really considered the Catskills. So
Okay.
This location is really kind of ideal for fly fishing because it's located off of a branch of the Delaware River. There's a really fantastic stream directly across from the property, which is heavily used by fly fishermen. And it's also right around the corner from the Museum of Fly Fishing and the location where fly fishing was invented. And so when this particular client came to us initially, he did not have land, but had this goal and this dream of creating a place to invite people to come and really experience fly fishing. And at the time, Huts actually had a wonderful piece of land that is located right in the heart of fly fisherman country. So we were able to actually work with the client to basically sell him this recently subdivided parcel that we had been working on developing. And it turned out to be the perfect location within the budget that he was looking for. And we were able to utilize a lot of the existing relationships that we had been building throughout the development of this property over the previous 2 years. So it was like the right time and the right place where this client came to us with a very specific list of criteria that almost perfectly slot into this particular parcel. And so now he has this really excellent location that fully can commit to the vision of the property.
Yeah, I thought it was really great to see how that kind of came to fruition over the months early in design. Our first design meeting we had in May, and the site planning meeting we had in August. Between then, we were able to put our thoughts together on what the site needed to be, but also we had a firm idea on the building. And so I'll just run through our series of thoughts like we usually do on these. We started out really simple like we always do. We really just wanted to touch base with him about like the difference between let's just go with a standard out of the box and like a modified standard, and looking at the differences between those two. But we knew medium bar was going to be the best for this project and this client, because anytime we see somebody with a wish list of 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a modest budget, it needs to be a medium bar. It's just the most efficient layout. So we started with the medium bar and talked him through those and really just jumped into the numbers pretty early on, like trying to understand the difference between these and really educating our client on that. It's a modified medium bar, but it is a little bit more of a hybrid between the standard and kind of what we're showing here. I'll touch base into the design concepts more on this one. Like 6 weeks later, we met again, and we've had enough time to really nail down like our approach to this layout in terms of like how it relates to fly fishing and the kind of experience we wanted folks to have. At this point, we don't have a site. What we do know is that we want to have space for 6 to 8 folks to be able to stay at this house at once, and to have it be very much designed for their practical uses, like people that are going fly fishing during the day. So we designed it to have this bump out, which is basically the exterior screened in kind of area for the equipment, your fishing poles, your lures and your boots, everything the owner doesn't want them to trek inside, basically. And another thing to just call out, one of the design choices we made for this project at this point was that we wanted it to be a very directional facade, because we didn't know where the site was going to be yet, but we obviously know that any site has like a preferred view direction. That kind of helped drive our designs. Like we're just going to design it to be directional from one view. So the front deck is definitely the kind of like anchor. It's also how you would access the home. So you come up here, take your stuff off. You could enter the house a couple of ways, but this is the primary entrance. And then there's also like a hot tub moment out there. And then inside, we adjusted the standard to have two different sized bedrooms on the first floor. One was more premium, a conventionally sized bed and furnishing. The other one is more of a bunk room. So that actually sleeps two. So we're actually more between 8 and 10 people can stay here. Other things we did, we wanted to originally have a really nice stone fireplace to really give that experience of you're in a cabin on a river, near a river, and have river rocks on the project. But this is like first pass on the modified layout. Upstairs, pretty similar to our typical layout. We just added a bathroom on that floor right there. And that's actually one of our most easiest moves to like really make this a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, is to just tuck that bathroom in there as efficiently as possible. That's where we landed for the layout. And some of the design features we were targeting is like really wanting this kind of like gear porch or like the outdoor aspects of this on the deck to relate to the experience, and also just like the ambiance. So we're being very particular with types of wood, and like we have things hanging on the wall and boot mounts and things like that. The hot tub was definitely a must, and is a must to hit the desired kind of nightly rate for the folks that are going to come out here. And of course, after they're like stuck in cold river water all day, it sounds pretty great to get in the hot tub. So we just wanted to keep that really efficient and simple from a design perspective. It's view facing, but it's not its own space. It's part of an existing deck. So trying to be clever about integrating these things. And then simple things, the kitchen, we wanted that to have a nice wood moment, but we're keeping the kitchen really simple with a single wall. And then this was our inspiration originally for the stone fireplace, the bunk room concept being this woody space. And then the creek side bedroom or the view side, like really wanting that room in particular to feel very open out to the outdoors. And I'm showing you all this because we went through value engineering. And I think that the story with this one is like, how do you maintain quality design in a collaborative pricing exercise? And I think that a lot of things changed, but they changed for the good in a lot of ways too, which I think is great. And so this is the bedroom upstairs. It's tucked away. But that was like the general like spatial concepts. And then we have the fishing lure station where the fishermen can craft their handmade fishing lures and just read up on their hobby and hang out upstairs. It has a lot of little spaces and it can accommodate a lot of people, but it's a very efficient layout. So after we went through this with the client, we walked through it in 3D. And like I said, I want to show you guys where it was at so that we can see where it went. So that was where we left things in design. And then once we kind of knew we were going with this lot, we started to do our code analysis. We already knew that it was great. We're part of the development of it. And so then it was just a matter of how does this design fit onto the lot. And so this little lot here, it shares the driveway, has this band of coniferous trees and is clearing over here already. And the creek is on the other side there. So we wanted to position it here, even though it was close to this property line, so that we could have some creek views and take advantage of the existing cleared area there. So we identified the build area and we oriented it towards the creek, which is southeast. The septic would go downhill from that. And that's where we left it. We finally put it on a site, and because we had that directional design, we didn't really have to do much other than think through the groundwork cost and try to think through some privacy and go from there.
And the current positioning of the house as it stands today, the deck, you can actually see the creek from the deck.
Oh, great.
I think depending on the season, I'm sure in the middle of spring and summer it'll be a little bit too full, but you can certainly get the feeling that you are in the middle of the fly fishing mecca when you're staying
fly
there.
fishing country. Yeah, that's great. So once we had the site plan and we had the building, we went into pricing. This represents what we had them priced first. We had this bump out. We'd already gone through structural design and we went with a column here instead to open that up. So it definitely had a very different look than where it landed because of the black siding and the larger porch. And so I'm just going to quickly flip to where it landed because I think it's more understated, but also a little bit more rustic, and it feels more appropriate towards the actual use of it being a fly fishing getaway, I feel like. So let's talk through what we discussed to get to that price point. So I forget how far we were over, but we had to do quite a few things to get to the sweet spot budget. And so this presentation, we don't typically visualize a lot of our VE stuff with our clients. We just do it in conversation, use sketches as needed. But this one, it was important to understand where we were. And since we had to change so much, what was being changed. And so we did a couple of things. We revised the deck and the screen porch design. We changed the exterior siding. We updated some window and skylights, and we did some adjustments of structural details. We reduced the fireplace from a stone one to a freestanding one in the corner. And we simplified tiles, even going from a mosaic tile to a typical subway tile, saved them a bunch on install. And we reduced some of our custom millwork scope. And so that's quite a bit of things across the design, but altogether it significantly helped. Once we knew we couldn't go with the black siding that was stained, it just cost too much to finish it out, we went with this large board hemlock, and you'll get to see that in the construction photos. And we went with asphalt shingle roofing. So that's always going to be an exterior VE kind of pitch from us, is let's go with natural wood that ages over time, and let's switch to asphalt shingles. Now we don't even pitch metal siding unless we absolutely know we have the budget for it. But in the end, I think the palette turned out really great, and Brian is pretty pleased with it as well. And then finishes and fixtures. We looked at a couple series of revisions. We went from 113K in total down to 70, and then back up to 75K through some different revisions. And so one of those is just keeping it really simple with the fireplace, having it be in the corner where the view side is. We also did some streamlining of appliances. We went with some Samsung and some other things to help bring it down. We also went with no upper cabinets, but like a wood back with shelves, and that helped bring costs down as well. And in the bedrooms, originally we're talking to the builder about doing like a hybrid of IKEA with plywood surrounds. Ultimately, we ended up going with all builder built, so his carpenter, and we were able to actually hit a pretty similar price point, which was great. And these are little visualizations we did for the client to have him understand what we were talking about with these really efficient little millwork moments that kind of made the spaces work. It's creating the storage you need, but it's not relying on a closet. So little things like that can help. And then the bunk room, we worked through the details with the builder and keep those really simple so we could hit a certain price point. And then we went through and revised some of our like plumbing fixtures and tile and things like that to hit a better cost as well. That's basically where we went from a design perspective. We started with layout. We got an idea of what we wanted it to really look like. And then we figured out what it really needed to look like based on cost, which is something more like this. And so that kind of explains that whole workflow. And like I said, I think this one is such a good example of the design got better through budget related decisions. And that's the difference between us and working with anyone else, is that's baked into our process. And when we don't have all the answers about what we can do, like for example, I was working with another client today, they've got a big wish list too, and their budget is modest. So we go into a pricing exercise knowing that we're going to have to make decisions and we're going to do it together. And that way we all hope for the best. And in the end, we still make it look great. That's the goal. So I'll show you guys the progress photos of where they're at. You can see the building here sited pretty close to how our rendering is. That really nice tall forest behind it is just wonderful. Really sets the stage. But what doesn't set the stage is, of course, this house over here. So in the time between our site plan and finalizing pricing and also them starting, then somebody built a house and a driveway right along there. So we're definitely still going to work on some sort of privacy buffer there, but otherwise it's sited beautifully. And there's nothing wrong with having a neighbor in my mind, as long as they're okay with a bunch of fishermen taking long hot tubs of baths out there. This photo shows you the approach. So the driveway would be around here. There will be some windows on this side, but it's a pretty subtle approach. It definitely has some more to show on the deck side. There's the trusses. So this was truss day. You can start to get a sense of the space here. So with these ones, you've got the zip on or the building rack is starting to put the panels on the roof. The deck is framed. They got the concrete pad there. Another thing we did for VE for this one, we made sure all the doors were 7 foot so we could have a more kind of off-the-shelf sizing and consistency with those and the interior doors. But we also have no windows on this facade that looks towards that house. We knew that there was a possibility that would happen. And I actually think it makes the space feel really monumental. That's a very big wall, and we can pull up the pictures with the sheathing on it on the inside, and it looks even more substantial. So the fireplace will go over here. These are all the sliders. So the view side is on that side. This is looking over at the kitchen. So the kitchen will be right here, where the fisherman loft will be. And this is that main corridor. So they're putting on the boards outside. You can see the scale of the screen porch. They're not going to actually finish the screen porch out until the spring, but so that's how they're going to leave it until then. The roofing is on. So this is the approach, which I think is nice. We have a hose bib over here, and this is going to be like a spot to like scrape your boots and leave your boots and wash them off. And then you would come up and store your fishing gear in the screen porch. You got the bathtub in with the correct location for the plumbing. Sometimes if it's read wrong, but this is the upstairs bedroom. Just looking from the loft down into the great room space. I love this detail that we do. It's not complicated, but just simply putting 3 sliders together gives you the experience of having a multi-glider, but at a fraction of the cost. And it's still executing in the same way. It really gives you that indoor-outdoor kind of fluidity of use when they're all open. This is the loft area, definitely as low as it needed to be per code, but still you can put a futon there and have some extra space for guests.
Katie, when you were going through the value engineering process on this project, what would you say were the most impactful choices that really helped move the budget back to a direction that felt more attainable for the client?
Well, exterior, it was definitely changing the siding to unfinished or just having it be natural, and then doing the asphalt shingles. We also reduced some deck. Yeah, those are the big exterior swaps, and then reducing the deck size. And then we also changed some windows moderately. This was originally going to be a sliding door that walked out as well. Once we changed that, it just became 2 windows. So I would say that those were the 2 big exterior changes. And then on the interior, it was just a lot of really mindful finishes and fixture things. And then also collaborating with the builder on the millwork, trying to hit like a certain cap on the millwork and then having him design to that. That was really helpful. Things like we now know if we want to stay on a certain budget for tile install, it should be like your standard kind of subway tile. And if we need to save even more, it should only be where it needs to be, which is in the shower and tub, like not doing it for the look, but really trying to just put the materials where they need to be and finding simple, elegant details to make them all work together well. So I would say that was it. It was some minor form changes, taking away that overhang on that extra part of the deck was a big save. It also reduced the structural complexity of the porch. So yeah, if I would say to do something a little bit different with somebody at this budget, I would probably say the porch, the screen porch is kind of an add-on that needs to be considered an add-on. The building itself will usually come like at this size will be around $500,000. I would say most of the time. So the fact that we were able to fit the porch and the deck and the house and all that budget was just clever collaboration with the builder. So it worked out and now everything's coming together.
And where are we today with the progress?
They're done with the exterior, at least everything they want to do this winter. And so they're going to focus on the interior for a bit, and then they'll come back out and finish the screen porch and finish the hot tub area and all that. They actually didn't sign up for owner's rep with us, so I'm not too hip to it. We also eliminated skylights and changing that fireplace.
So in the finished project, there's no skylights, right?
Skylights are actually, they're there. Skylights are surprisingly not a big VE item. Like they don't push the needle one way or another, which people are always happy with. But yeah, that's fly fishing camp. And I think that they'll probably start renting it out. Who knows? Maybe when is fly fishing seasons? In the spring or is it in the fall?
I think it will begin in the early spring is when you'll start to see the fishermen begin making their way out into the creek. This project has a very good possibility of getting to take advantage of the 2025 season. It's pretty exciting. And I think that Hutz does such a great job at working with clients to make smart choices on materials and specifications so that, as you said, being very mindful about that so that we can make sure that we're achieving budget goals, but also thinking about hospitality concepts. That is, I think, a place that our team really excels because we're not only working with people that are designing their primary or secondary homes, we're working with people that are looking to create a bit of a hospitality brand for themselves, whether it's one single structure such as fly fishing camp, or whether it's a little bit more of a compound or a bit of a village scheme. And so this is I would say, a small kind of compact version of a hospitality concept, but the same thinking goes into it, whether it's in one building or multiple, because ultimately there had to be so much ingenuity in thinking about how is a group of 8 going to actually utilize all these spaces effectively and efficiently, and how can it be marketed to those people in a way that is appealing and can be a place that can be repeatedly rented. So just all around a very cool project that I think brings so many of the great things that we do into one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite versions of the medium bar too that we have coming out of the construction pipeline. And I'm excited to see more come out because it is our most common standard, but it's also just has so many different iterations of itself now. And with little moves, like just changing the siding, changing the way that screen porch looks. That's the power of the standard, I would say.
Yeah, awesome.